Channel community, this is Tommy in North Carolina, and this is one of those philosophical question videos that you may or may not like. If you're like me, you probably enjoy content like showing records and things, and I'm not really going to show any records here. It's just more of a question I want to throw out there and challenge you guys to maybe make some videos or just comment down below. Whatever you want to do, whatever you're moved to do, if anything at all. But I want to talk a little bit about why particular artists tour, why they do it. And it's a discussion that kind of goes back a few years that I had with someone in a record store where all the great philosophical discussions happen. And this is kind of stemming from that. Now, I want to talk about it a little bit and ask the question and put it out there for the VC and see what you guys think. But talking about bands and artists that tour and the ones that do it on a very regular basis. I mean, there's an ongoing thing in Bob Dylan's world, the never-ending tour, as it's been called. And I don't know that it's really a never-ending tour. He does take breaks and he stops, but he's pretty much been on tour since the late 80s all the way through now. He tours very regularly and is always on the road, headed for another joint, as he says in the song. And that's something that is well known. Paul McCartney started touring again in 2002 and has pretty much toured ever since. Now, the tours have been different and different sort of themes to the tours. The Who have been pretty regular. They just announced another tour. They're going to do a symphonic thing. And the Stones are going on the road again this year. ELO finally is touring a little bit. And what I'm getting at is when you think about these artists that have toured like this, McCartney, the Stones, the Who, even Bob Dylan, these people that have pretty much been on the road pretty regularly for the last forever. I'll lump a few other people into that, Elvis Costello maybe, that just tour constantly and are always out there. These are big name people, classic artists. They can't be doing it for money. There's not really, I don't think there's a financial backing. Now, I know talking about the Who, I think some of it came out that Entwistle had some financial struggles, and Pete really wasn't keen on touring, but he wanted to help his bandmate and brother John out. But I mean, now it's just Pete and Roger. They're not doing it for financial reasons. There's not really that much more they can make. You think about guys like Paul McCartney that are wealthy beyond whatever, beyond description. Guys like Paul McCartney don't tour because he's trying to make an extra buck or he's trying to pay a bill. And what I'm getting at is I think guys like that, they tour because it's just pure drive at this point. Now it used to be people went on tour to promote a record or something, and Paul kind of does this. There's usually a tie-in to a release that he's doing. The Who kind of made it known this year that their tour is going to be around a new studio recording. But you think about it, it really has little to do with the money or the financial gain. I really don't see those guys sitting around going, well, we've got to pay another bill or buy another car or house. Let's go on the road and make a few bucks. And that brings us to the next level of artists that probably do it for money. Famously, Leon Russell, a few years ago, was pretty shabby, had some pretty shabby touring conditions, but that's how he was really surviving, was by playing shows. And I know there's a lot of artists that is their living. They don't sell records anymore. They're not on the radio, and nobody really follows them. So you do have this sort of level of artists that go out and tour because that really is how they pay the bills. They make their money from their live shows. And that's a very different thing than somebody like McCartney that's doing it, I think, just out of pure drive. I don't know. There may be, and this is something to ask about, if there's like an artistic sort of challenge to it. I think about artists like Peter Gabriel that tour, and they usually have some sort of theme to the show, and it's sort of an artistic sort of production that's involved. But you know, I can't think that Jeff Lynne enjoys you know, or has the idea of like, well, I'm just going to go out on the road and play shows. I mean, Jeff Lynne probably is wealthy enough and does well. So these recent tours, other than just giving the fans something to have joy over, which is great. Don't get me wrong, Jeff. If you're watching this video, I'm glad you're touring. I'm glad you're out there doing it. But I can't think that it would be, he's not really promoting anything. He's not really, it's not like, here's my new record or whatever. I know there was a new ELO record a couple of years ago. But that's really not the reason they're doing it. I mean, I think it's just got to be just this thing where it's just pure drive that's doing it at this point, that's making them want to go out and do it. I think guys like Dylan just have this, Willie Nelson, names are just popping in my head, but these guys are just constantly doing live shows. I think it really boils down to they're all about just getting the love from the audience and things like that. Which brings me to my final thing here, and just sort of that last idea. Most of you people know that I'm a big fan of Michael Nesmith, and the reason I'm kind of tying this all in, because Nesmith has toured pretty much, done tours for the last 8 or 9 years now. He's been pretty good about touring with the Monkees. He did a tour with Mickey and Peter. He's done some solo tours. And he's kind of done these things the last couple of Januaries where he hits the West Coast and does about 6 or 7 dates. And it's not really, I don't know if you would call it a tour, but he did a tour in the fall, kind of out and about. He's going back out on the road with Mickey and has done dates with him. And what I'm getting at with this is that, and I'm going to focus on the Monkees for a minute, because, I mean, pretty much Mickey Dolenz, Peter Tork, and Davy Jones have toured as the Monkees in some incarnation since the late 80s. They went through about a 10-year period in the 2000s where there was some bad blood, I think. But it's pretty much been the three of them for a very long time. That's been kind of the Monkees. As if you went and saw the Monkees live in concert, that's who you saw. Davy died, Nez comes back. We won't speculate on any of that. I'm not going to. That's just, it's what it is, it's speculation. But to what I'm getting at, I think more specifically, is Nesmith is interesting. He's really an enigma because I think for the longest time he was reluctant to tour because he's never been a fan of touring. It's kind of gone down. He's gone on record as saying, I've never been a big fan of touring. He's not needed the money. I think Nesmith has been pretty much wealthy since he inherited his mother's estate. You can look it up online. But I don't think Nesmith has ever been in a position where, oh, I need to make some bucks, let me go out on the road. And so I just don't think he ever had that sort of same drive that somebody like Paul McCartney has, or Bob Dylan, that keeps him out there and keeps him doing it. Now, you know, the last few years there's been an exception because he has gone out and he has toured, he has played and made appearances. But for a long time he was very reluctant to that. And part of me wishes that maybe he was broke, and this is kind of a selfish thing, that maybe Nesmith was struggling and maybe he would have been sort of more inclined to want to do a tour or go on the road or go out and do these sorts of things. He says he enjoys it, especially lately. He says he enjoys it, and he must, because he does keep doing it. I'm glad. Again, Nez, if you're watching, keep touring. Just come closer to my side of the country and see me. I'd love to. I'd see you. But it's just one of those things where, you know, the difference between somebody that just has that pure drive and someone that needs the financial sort of stability that touring provides. I always joke that if I were ever in a position to be any kind of musician, I wouldn't necessarily want to be like a big, huge star or somebody that wants to play arenas or anything. I always kind of wished I had enough of a following that that people dug my music enough that, you know, a few months out of the year I could go hit some major cities, play some clubs, and draw a nice crowd, make a few bucks, and then maybe make a record every once in a while. That'd be about as much as I'd want to do. I wouldn't want to do this grueling sort of in the van, slogging it out every night, you know, making a living at it, or relying on it, but just to go out and play. An artist like that comes to my mind, and maybe I'm wrong, Colin Hay from Men at Work. has sustained a pretty nice career. Now, Colin Hayes, not like a household name. People know Men at Work, but he does have a fan base. And I think Colin Hayes is one of those artists that can go out and play and bring people in. He's got a solid fan base, and he can play, you know, these sort of major cities. Marshall Crenshaw, maybe another artist like that. He's got enough of a following that people will see him when he goes out and plays. But I don't, you know, they probably supplement their income. I don't imagine those guys are like ultra wealthy or anything, but they enjoy playing music, and that's kind of what it's about anyway. A little bit rambling and probably incoherent, and I apologize for that. Just kind of thinking out loud, stream of conscious. Why do artists tour? Why do they do it? Pure drive, money, you know, and I don't know, maybe I'm just kind of talking out loud here for you guys, and just going to see if you have any thoughts or anything to add to it. Comment down below, like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. I appreciate you guys watching, and hopefully in the next couple of days I'll do some actual videos where I'm showing LPs, which I know a lot of you like. But tell me what you think about the touring artist and what that means and what that implies and why these guys do it. That's all for now. Thanks for watching. I'll see you all again next time.